Good evening, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to News in Focus. My name is Faraz Patel. It's a brand new show coming to you here on Hilaal TV channel 347 every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 8:30. We thank you, the viewer, for staying with us here. And of course, with the new show comes a new cabinet, which was announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa yesterday, and it has ministers belonging to 6 former opposition parties. The DA leads the pack with 6 ministerial posts and 6 deputy ministers. Last night, Ramaphosa announced 75 ministers and deputy ministers across the political divide, which now make up the Government of National Unity. The business community will be the most interested as the country is desperate for a pure economic recovery. Joining us now, I'd like to welcome our first guest here on News in Focus. It's Mavuso. She is the CEO of Business Leadership South Africa. Busi, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on News on Focus on Hilaal TV.
Good evening, Faraz, and thank you very much for inviting me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Busi, I read your article on MoneyWeb. You pointed quite clearly the time for talking is now over.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at where we are as a country, when you look at the opportunity cost, of the continued talks that were actually happening. I mean, you saw what the rand did, you saw how the markets responded, you saw what the investor confidence did. So I really think that we needed to get here, and we're very excited as the business community that all these political parties finally managed to get their deals done, and they've definitely had their agreements reached. And what we're hoping for right now is that the agreements that they've reached and the deals that they've done will set the foundation, because our success is premised on those agreements and on those deals, our success as an economy. The president last night also highlighted the fact that we need to professionalize the public service, and we're really hoping that that professionalization is going to have to start from the top at ministerial level. So we're really hoping that these are men and women of integrity. We're really hoping that these people have been appointed on merit, versus favors for friends. And we really hope that these will be the men and women in the cabinet that will actually ensure that they change the economic trajectory of the country, because South Africa really needs it. We need to agree to prioritize the creation of rapid, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth so that we can deal with the challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality.
Yeah, you touched on sustainable economic trajectory, and that's going to be very important. Enoch Godongwana, he retains his Minister of Finance position. He's got a tough road ahead of him. He's been given this, how do we put it this way, seal of approval for a second time. What does Godongwana need to do to able to make sure that the investors that have been keeping such a keen eye on South Africa pre-elections and even now for the 4 weeks, that he can still have that confidence that South Africa remains a place for investors to put their money in?
Absolutely. So I think you see the markets have actually responded quite well to the appointment of Godongwana. The rand, for the first time in a while, is actually trading below 18 rands. So we have already gained that economic strength. And that is a huge vote of confidence on Enoch Godongwana. We're very excited about his reappointment as the business community as well. I think he has really shown the confidence, he has shown the fiscal discipline, he has political capital, he's got the expertise, he's got the ability to inspire investor confidence. And all of those bode well for the economic clusters and by extension, the country's economic growth and development. He really needs to continue doing what he's been doing, which is fiscal discipline, which is ensuring, that fiscal consolidation continues to become our strategy as a country. For the first time this year, we might be set for a budget deficit. And I think that is quite positive because we've been operating on a budget deficit position in quite a while. So attaining a budget surplus is actually going to be important. So Enoch Godongwana brings that, with him. He's already a steady hand, not just in government, but in politics as well. And he has demonstrated over the past 3 years that he has been minister, that he really intends on ensuring that we spend less than what we have. South Africa at the moment is borrowing 2 billion rands a day just to balance the books. And Enoch Godongwana has really been focusing on ensuring that we actually reduce our debt levels as a country, which are quite high, comparatively speaking, as it were.
Busi, new Minister for Trade and Industry, of course, Ibrahim Patel, came with quite a great reputation in terms of really making sure that South Africa's trade across the world, especially in a time where you have this great divide between the global south and the west. But he's been able to manage that on both ways. Park Stow comes in. Park Stow's really got a difficult job ahead of him in terms of making sure that he needs to carry on, that leadership that was shown by Ibrahim Patel in maintaining South Africa's trade relations within BRICS, but also, the big one, which is none other than AGOA with the United States of America.
Absolutely. But I think when you look at what Pakistan has done, when he headed up the Department of, or when he was the minister responsible for the Department of Economic Development, Environment and Agriculture in the Gauteng provincial government, you would see that this is someone who has a very progressive outlook, in terms of how do we best intervene as a country in terms of, the township revitalization project and the rural development and rural revitalization project to ensure that those economies become the centers of production, the centers of distribution, as well as the centers of economy of commercial activity. We all know that big business, has reached their plateau in terms of creating jobs. So we need to be focusing on small businesses. Pax is also big on entrepreneurship, as an irreplaceable enabler and regenerator of economic growth, innovation, and competition. And he brings that with him to this portfolio. He understands that township economic revitalization is a recipe to changing our trajectory and dealing with the jobs crisis. So he's really bringing with him, this notion of decentralizing the economy. The economy cannot continue to be concentrated in the, if you look at all the industries, whether it's the banking or it's the insurance or it's the big five banks, the big five insurance companies, the big five law firms, the big five audit firms. So I really think that this project and agenda, of economic revitalization starts to deal with that. And I really think that he'll be a good person to have as the Minister of Business, and we're really looking forward to working with him.
You touch on small business, of course. Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams keeps her position. She now has to take the next level, doesn't she, in terms of making sure that entrepreneurs, and South Africa is full of entrepreneurs, full of people with great ideas, that they'll be able to go ahead and take their ideas with the Department of Small Business and try and increase that intensity of these businesses that really want to be part of the economy of South Africa. How does she do that, Busi?
I don't think she has actually achieved much, in her first term. So she really has a tough job ahead of her, because when you look at how much small businesses still continue, to complain with the issues of red tape, with the issues of access to markets, with the issues of access to capital, with the DFIs, your NEF, your IDCs, and whatever the case is, not being well capitalized, but also, not assisting small businesses. Stella has a difficult job, but we therefore need to ensure, that how do we actually ensure that her minister is well supported? I don't think I've actually looked very closely at what are exactly the challenges that have beset that department. Is it a function of not having the right people? Is it a function of not having the right policies? Is it a function of not being well capitalized? But we need to look at how to actually intervene in as far as that is concerned. So actually I was surprised, to see her coming back to that ministry, because I thought that they were probably maybe going to give that to someone else so that they can actually try and do something different with that ministry. Small businesses are still complaining for us with the same issues that they've been complaining about, for the past 5-7 years. So something has just unfortunately not worked fundamentally well, in the Ministry of Small Business Development.
Pusi, Gwede Mantashe keeps his post. Obviously, it's now become the Mineral Resources and Petroleum Department. He's had a love-hate relationship with many of the mining firms within South Africa. And of course, there's still this question mark with regards to, BHP potentially taking over Anglo American. From your point of view, do the mining conglomerates still trust Gwede Mantashe in that position right now, given this love-hate relationship they've had before?
You know, that has been a very difficult relationship. And I'm absolutely glad that energy has been removed from that ministry and it has actually been given to Hosi, you know,
Yes,
as part
yes.
of the Minister of Electricity, you know, it now includes energy. Because I guess when you look at the progress that we should have been made, that should have been made, you know, the cadastral system, for instance, that should have been implemented many years ago has still not been implemented. You know, the granting of the mining licenses. You know, the issue, for instance, we know the reason the IPPs have actually been delayed, you know, because it's been responsible for energy. You know, the 7th round of IPPs are still not been put out to market. You know, there's been delays in as far as that is concerned. You know, the IRP, you know, that came out of the DMRE at the beginning of the year, you know, was way off, you know, in terms of trying to respond to the energy needs of South Africa and the right energy mix that we actually need to have as a country. You know, when we tried to lift the license exemption for self-generation from 1 megawatt to 50 megawatts, and we now know that we don't have a cap, you know, it was Minister Mantashe who actually was pushing back, you know, against the private sector participation. So I'm actually trying to also understand for myself, you know, to rationalize why the minister would have been kept in that department. But I'm hoping that now, because he's only going to be focusing on mining, he probably maybe will make, you know, progress, you know, in terms of ensuring that he better services the mining sector. But there definitely has been issues within the DMRE. I absolutely agree.
Busi, unfortunately, time is up. We hope to have you soon on our channel again. Thank you so much for joining us here on News in Focus on Hilaal TV.
Thank you, Farhal. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure. That's Busi Mavuso, CEO of Business Leadership South Africa. Yes, of course. Business, economy, that is the foremost priority for South Africans right now. We want to curb unemployment. We want to make sure that business is functioning in this country. From business to politics, I'm going to be speaking to Dr. Levi Ndau after the break. Yes, do we have a bloated cabinet? That's the big question right there. We're going to have that discussion after this break. You stay tuned.